Hey, we're live. Hey, welcome, friends, to Lions Live and the Forever Lions Network, the only network put by the players to the fans. Our second week back here using some new technology into a 2020 COVID season. Got the big dude, Stephen Davis, the Grizz, Jimmy Kennedy, and we're hoping to get Yaacov Yisrael in here again. And Jimmy, it was just you and I last week. We got the technology working. We got Stephen in. Hopefully, we get Yaacov in this weekend. We didn't have a lot
Yeah.
to talk about last week because we didn't know this team. We didn't see them, but we sure did see them on Saturday, didn't we?
Hey, so technically, did I lose? Because I know you didn't pick. We both picked Penn State
We
to
did.
get the win. Me, I was thinking what I say, 27-14 or something like that?
Yeah, I was picking
Man,
31. I was 31 to.
Well, that first drive looked like every indication that, and they was putting big boy packages in, and I was like, man,
yeah.
they're doing it old school style. There's no way that they're going to keep up now.
Yeah, it was a.
Hey, that's what I was thinking. I was like, man, these guys coming ready to roll. I mean, overall, the defense, they showed that signs of potential and was playing some decent ball here and there. But when it was all said and done, it was just with the scrambling quarterback. He just was making things happen. And first half, they was rocking and rolling, but they just couldn't get them off the field, third down and so on. It's outrageous.
Yeah, and of course, statistically, we tripled them in statistics, which again we learned doesn't mean everything. And the quarterback, I mean, he had probably the worst accuracy I've seen in the Big Ten in the last 3 or 4 years. But in those last 2 or 3 series, he had like the most on point accuracy
Yeah.
I saw. I mean, the one throw he made in at the end of regulation, it was an impossible throw because he was going away. I'm like, that's going to be picked, and he just zooms it right over our guy covering. So we, and it was a tough loss. We had the first drive. Every indication everything was going on. I had no idea we had lost Noah Kane. I mean, because Noah Kane is on that drive too. And then then Ford, number 28, he was carrying the big load. It looked like it was a big game. And O-line, and again, they got off to a good start, but they, and then all of a sudden, after a while, they probably had about 4 or 5 very bad series in a row. Kind of like Jimmy said, I saw the potential. I think what I liked is that they weren't afraid to substitute. I don't know if you all noticed that. At least the guards they were substituting for. I know they took Thorpe out a couple of series, and then he was okay and finished the game. But I don't know. You saw the differences. I don't know much about actually the end of spring ball and how the training camp goes, especially the way training camp is. I suppose it's hard to stay sharp, but I think we were just talking casually earlier about, we saw what Penn State was missing. And really, to tell you the truth, college football, because of every conference having a different idea of when they want to play, it's really uneven. I mean, the Big Ten wasn't going to play at all, one of the last holdouts. They started last Saturday, and then you got other people who've been playing 3 or 4 weeks before. So it's tough. And like I said, the level of play to me is still getting there. So
Yeah, it was just kind of sloppy all around. The special teams, we're dropping. We're just not fielding catches cleanly. We're not kicking the ball consistently.
kicking the ball consistently, he missed a 25-yard chip shot.
That's what I'm saying, man. He's just.
Oh my God! When I saw that, I said, "Now come on, Skip. I know you got to tell me something, man." I mean, I don't care what the weather's like. A 25-yard chip shot.
Oh man, you can stand there without even having to take a step, hit them. Yeah, it's just like when everything went wrong, it went wrong all at once with every aspect of the game. I mean, we got to field the ball when we're fielding a special teams play. You got to catch the ball and you got to make those easy kicks.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't understand. Here we are. We're 25 yard in, trying to tie the school record again at 57 yards, and he didn't. I don't want to say it was a fluke that he got the 57-yard when he did, but he's just not consistent. He's just not consistent. I mean, if you're gonna put him in for a long field goal like that, you should be hitting 65, 70-yard field goals consistently all the time to be even thinking about doing that. You really, that's like the last ditch effort, end of the game, no hope left type kick. I think they could have been better off trying to even throw it up and get a penalty or something to get down closer. But who knows?
And when it's all said and done, I think it's just like what you said. I mean, guys weren't consistent. So I want to put it to first game jitters. Like Big Dude said, we went out and we doubled in terms of offense and our production and so on. So we did more than what Indiana, did. They just, when it's all said and done, they got a lucky play at the end. For us, our standards is high, and we shouldn't have been in that position. Like you said, a 25-yard chip-in field goal, we should have had that to where it wouldn't have came down to the wire. A couple of drives and a couple of series where we had the 3 and outs and a situation where we should have capitalized on it. And then I want to say just the accuracy of our quarterback. It was a couple of low throws that was to our receivers' feet, and we just have to go out there and play decent ball, especially when it comes to defense. We came up with some big plays here and there, but we just have to be consistent. And if we get consistent with keeping guys where they're 14 points or less and make that the goal, then I think we should be fine. We got a tough task coming up this week. I would hope, because we haven't played talent against another team since, last year, I would hope that this loss actually helped us to where we can refocus. Obviously we dropped to number 18 and everything else, but if we won this last game, will we overlook Ohio State? Our coach Turner used to say, you're not as good as you think you are, and you're not as bad as you are when you take a loss. So it just, guys seem to be upset. I didn't like how Indiana, obviously the quarterback, how classless they were. Once the guy, they called it and they said it was a touchdown, he started waving goodbye and everything else and so on, and like, get out of here and everything else. And I'm just like, obviously I've never seen a Penn State player do that. In the many years that we beat Indiana and so on, I understand they had they big thing when they finally beat a top 10 team and so on. But when it's all said and done, they might have 4 wins this year, maybe. Yeah. So it's like one of those things. Like I don't remember if Indiana has been going to a bowl game. You know what I'm saying? So it's one of those things. Like be classless. Don't be classless. In terms of going on there and getting this win, and then because the karma's gonna come back. They still got a tough schedule ahead, and they was lucky to get this win.
They were, Jimmy, because if you look at the numbers, we doubled the time of possession, total yards, passing, running. We beat them. Okay, it's just at the end, and those mistakes
we hurt ourselves.
Yeah, the interceptions, missed field goals, that's a total difference in the game, man. Total difference in the game. Yeah. And it won't be like that. But Ohio State's going to be interesting because, here is an opportunity. I'd hope, if hopefully coach said, what, how does it feel, guys? And they'll be like, yeah, it sucks, doesn't it? Or you have an opportunity today. Don't forget this feeling you got now, because put that towards getting a win here, because you have an opportunity to put your name on the wall again here and show that we got a program that can compete.
And that's just what it is, because it's hard to judge, obviously, because it's so late in the year. Think about it. It's Halloween this weekend, and we're just now starting to talk about ball. Obviously, how does that work out in terms of bowl games and stuff in December and different stuff like that, and I was watching Sports Center and stuff, and they was talking about, this is just an example, just how everything is off. Like, it seemed like the NBA was just done, and they're talking about starting up December 22nd. And it's like, it just was done. They just finished. How are we starting a new NBA season and so on, but trying to get everything back on track? So, like I said, how mentally exhausted were guys in terms of travel, in terms of different things, in terms of being in the bubble, being in the isolation like we talked about, and so on. So it's an adjustment for everyone. Obviously we all, Big Dude, Skip and I was talking about at some point in our career, we had to deal with some kind of adversity. When I was there, they was building the new Lash building. So we was transitioning from the old Lash building into the new one. When I was there, we did the addition for the stadium, with the second tiers and stuff. So we didn't have locker rooms. We had the trailers and everything else and so on.
Wow.
So it's not, so my last 2 years, I don't know what it's like to have a locker, in terms of that. I was sitting in the trailer on the floor like this, like, come on, let's go, but it was just, obviously it's not a pandemic and people getting sick and different stuff and so on, but it's still an adjustment. But it was mentally draining. Halftime you're going into a locker room, you don't have a routine. You're sitting in a certain place. You're going here, and it's everyone's on top of each other, and it's water, and and then the starters need to be here. The guys that's not playing the red shirts, they got to go there, and different stuff. And it was just like we was on top of each other, but we still pushed through. And if you look, those years we didn't have winning years. Because we weren't able. I mean, like literally, like you're in the trailer. So we were back to back when it comes to offense talking, defense talking, and it's just a bunch. So what are the players currently going through? Like we was just saying off the air, it's been some ugly football out there, some ugly football, and that's from I can't say from Pop Warner, but definitely from the collegiate level up until pro. It's only maybe one or two pro teams that's playing, decent right now. From the Eagles to, Eagles Giants look terrible. I think who has the most wins in that conference? What, 3, maybe?
Oh, that division, 2-4-1.
In that division, yeah, that's what I'm saying. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's been a tough beginning. I'm happy that the season is happening. I mean, to be honest with you, Jimmy and Skip, I have my doubts about whether there should be a season. And the number one thing was, besides health and safety, of course, is the fact that can we have a quality season and one, the players can be proud of and everything else, not just because at this point, how much better do you get, or are you just playing until somebody gets hot? And then the injuries are bound to happen. They're bound to happen anyway. I still don't quite know what happened with Noah Kane. They said, was he in a boot or was he on a sideline in a crutch? They didn't say what happened. I must have missed that. I mean, losing him is big. That was the other running back. But then you had some freshman kids out there that look pretty good. That's what I saw, some of the redeeming things. Our offensive line just has to be consistent. I mean, we can't say we don't have the people out there that are experienced. Now, we were talking off before, too. I didn't realize, number one, that Shaka Tony was back. I forgot about that. And I did see it before, but I thought maybe I was looking at an old roster. And then I saw Will Fries. I mean, to have Will Fries back at right tackle. And then you got Wallace, who started last year at left tackle. And then Miranda, and, of course, the center, the outstanding center, Mike Minnick, and C.J. Thorpe. Just a good group of folks, but they got to kind of keep that momentum going, anytime it's fourth and short yardage, there's where you got to capture things. Because there's so many opportunities, especially playing against Ohio State, you can't come close to making those mistakes. Even though Ohio State, quote unquote, it doesn't look that sharp themselves. But this, when they come to Beaver Stadium, even if it's 10 people they're going to come to play. That's what ends up happening, and hopefully we do. Hey, does anybody know what's the limit that we are letting in the stadiums? Anybody know?
A big fat 0.
Big fat 0. I know some.
Oh, wow.
I thought it was maybe 10,000 people. Maybe I didn't know.
We're really not letting anyone in. Wow. I think that hurts us because obviously, especially for us defensively, we look forward to that. I need the crowd noise.
Maybe
that's the advantage of
practice. Maybe we can pump it in like at practice.
Yeah, but it's still different in terms of, just like you said, in practice, it's totally different what's it with the waves or so on, whatever it's called, the sound waves, is you can hear it echoing. That's, in the stadium versus just having speakers out there. And is it fair for us to have the music or the crowd noise lower when our offense is out there, but higher when their offense is out there?
Yeah, you got
So it's a lot, because that's the way it would be in if it was, our fans.
Yeah.
And we'll be out there like this. Let's go. Let's get it up. So they can't, hear the, snap count.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it'll be definitely different having an empty stadium.
Yeah.
They've locked. ESPN will be up here. They're doing game day. That's all locked down. Nobody can get near it. Nobody can get near the stadium unless you're a player. This has to have an effect upon the guys who are playing there. They literally live in a bubble right now. It's like that Boy in a Bubble movie. I don't know if you remember that one or not.
Boy in a plastic bubble.
Yeah. I mean, these guys are in a bubble, man. Nobody gets near them, because all it takes, because this is tough, Big Ten, man. One guy gets it, and 21 days.
Yeah, that's the tough part. Big Ten, they're the toughest ones, and it probably was ramped up because you do a little bit of research and you see the president of Michigan and the president of Michigan State are both epidemiologists. So the epidemiologists are the ones that are looking at things and understand contact tracing. In fact, that's been, Jimmy, probably I would say, not as much, I would say, in terms of being focused on it, it's about 75% of my job. So my job has changed and all these other things are happening. And then we do it. Of course, we have D3 sports, which is different. But we're doing it in a bubble as well, So we have about, I think it's maybe 19 intercollegiate sports we have.
Just look at the Nebraska-Wisconsin game. That was canceled because of the, COVID and everything else. So it's just like what you guys say, whether it's a bubble or not, if one person get it, it can spread throughout the whole team. And how does that affect the Big Ten in terms of rescheduling and different stuff, so on? So
yes, they said they were going to call it a no contest? That's what they're going to call it. So that's what I'm saying. So looking at what we have, and we're looking at the fact that parents complain and parents want to have a season, and I can respect that. That you can't do that to us. And then of course the conference that was even later than the Big Ten was the Pac-12. Pac-12 really did not want to do it, and they were like, all right, all the rest of you doing it, because then you started seeing people who are the top 10, who are not going to stay in the top 10 once everybody gets to play. So that's I watched this year with a lot of interest. I do. Watching the Penn State game, it felt weird. It felt different to me. It didn't give me that tingly feeling, when you even see your team out there, because there was just so much intrigue. I looked at the game totally different, and I wanted to know now. No Michael Parsons. Well, who's number 13? I remember number 12 from last year. So it's hard to tell, man. I mean, like you said, they have some of the D linemen in the back, and I think the good part is they have the potential. People just had to figure out that other part, getting off on a good foot, especially in the Big Ten. But there's not much margin for error. I mean, Penn State has to play well Saturday. I mean, going 0-2, there's always a way to get back in some type of way. But 0-2 is, I guess this is the first year, and I don't know what y'all think is in terms of the value of those throwaway games. We don't have those throwaway games, these 68-0 games and all those, as kind of a preseason. So how important is that, to have that aspect and to just come and play in the conference? You play 3 or 4 games, then you're in conference play. I was like, wow. But now it's like conference play.
We took advantage of those non-conference play games. So it's just like you said, but that's not just the Big Ten. That's been across the board.
Right, and I think I see that everybody kind of needs it to get things going, to find out what else you have, to let those freshmen get. I mean, those freshmen that we have, and I was impressed. Those running backs, they play well, but they those were the guys that didn't seem to be too scared, because usually that's how people were coming out. But those first games, and I think That's how Devin Ford, Noah Kane, and all of them got straight last year by seeing how they were going to do in those first games and getting a feel and getting some success. And of course, the real big loss, of course, is Journey Brown. That was a huge one. So now it's a tough one, and then they're saying he possibly may not play this season. So we'll see. I'm hoping that he's able to play and his health and wellness is good. But if not, we understand.
Well, Journey Brown's actually done stuff, and he's not playing any ball.
Yeah, I was about to say he's done.
So is he for sure? Because they keep again. The media keeps spinning it a different way that he might be back. He might be, because I read a whole lot of stuff. Because I did read something that said that he's basically retired, and I was like, oh no.
Yeah, health reasons.
Yeah.
So God bless the man. That's a hard transition to go through. A lot of expectations. A nice family. I got to meet him up in the lounge when he came as a freshman. Good family, and had all the support in the world, man. And it's heartbreaking. I feel for them all. And but you talk about those easy games. How do you think Ohio State looked at Nebraska? I mean, they easily had their way with them. What are we looking at here for Saturday? What do you think it's going to be for us? So you want to make some picks now?
Oh, you want me to go out the gate? Like,
I'll go. You want me to go first? I go first.
Yeah, that's how you go first, Skip.
Yeah. You go be the O line and D line. You get the first contact.
I think I would really like to see Penn State turn this around and use last week as a wake-up call. Ohio State's they seem to have a little bit more together right now. I think it'll be a closer game than what people would probably think from the performance. But as far as a score, I would say I think it'll be Ohio State 31, Penn State 28, and it could go either way. But I think Ohio State may pull this one out.
Okay.
Just from what I've seen so far, that's just being honest with it. I'd love to see Penn State win, but I think it's going to be a closer game than what we think it'll be.
Yeah, and that's what I was thinking. I think that, we have to come a little bit further. We have to ask ourselves, I don't want to sit here and say that we're not ready, because I don't think that was the case, but I don't think anybody knew what it was we were going to encounter and how we were going to start. So I would say, we'll hold the lead for most of the game. I believe, and I believe we'll be able to run the football against Ohio State. Our offensive line, if they get together, they're solid, but these speed rushers and other things, this is why, we got to figure out what else we're going to do with our QB. In Ohio State that has the athletes, he's not going to be able to make the runs that he made against Indiana. He's this kid, Clifford. He's a baller, and I like his heart. I like the fact that he'll take the game into his hands. That's going to be helpful. We just got to ask ourselves, though, and us getting started, he's going to have a pretty good first half. And, on defense, hopefully we get a chance to make some plays, to hit that quarterback to get him to really make some mistakes. But I would say, yeah, I'm looking more like, a little higher scoring game, like maybe 37-34. And you know what? I'm going to say overtime again, but I got my Penn State shirt on, but the Buckeyes, through experience, will win that game.
Man, this is a tough one already. Obviously. And
of course, I hope I'm wrong.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, we definitely want Penn State to win. I don't think it's going to be as close as you guys have it. I have it more like 35-21, 35-17 Ohio State. Like you said, I think they have better athletes, and I feel like if we were doing a scrimmage right now in terms of just practices and so on, based off their talent, the rotations and different stuff that Ohio have, their depth and everything else, I think that they'll beat us. If we had the the crowd and the adrenaline and the we are the Penn State and everything else and so on that plays a part, because that plays a part in terms of the freshmen, the jitters, the nerves, and everything else that plays in the obviously it's the sport. So when you turn and you look in the crowd and the guys that's not focused and they're looking at the girls in the crowd and different stuff and so on. But when you just go out there and there's no one there and the only thing your focus is the big screen, the jumbotron, and just football and no other distraction, I think Ohio State has way better athletes for that. And if you look at it in terms of how I'm trying to explain it, that was the situation with Indiana. Indiana is not as good, but there was no distraction there. So the players was there, and it's just like practice. You got to stand on the sideline. You got to watch. You're not looking at the crowd. You're not trying to look a certain way. You don't care about how your fashion is and so on, and if someone can see you and so on, because it's just practice. You're just watching and so on, and you wait for your turn, and you're locked into the game. You're not hearing think about it. Turnover. Let's just say if Indiana, when they was playing bad, their crowd has booed them in the past.
Yeah.
So they didn't have to go through that, So what does that do to a player? What is the effect that has if a player, if they hear their own crowd? A freshman got to go into a game or get thrown into it because the star running back and so on just went down, and he just heard the crowd booing and so on. So it becomes like a receiver, young receiver, older receiver. He drops a pass and so on, and the crowd is, or someone screaming at you. You know what I'm saying? Whether it's the rival or whether it's their actual fans. So I just think that in terms of all the players being locked in, I think it helps with competition. But I think Ohio State has too much talent, and I think they'll get it done. I say 35-17.
Wow. I'm going to bring up one of my biggest concerns. I noticed again this past week. We get in short yardage and we still don't get the quarterback onto the ball. And sure enough, they're through in a fraction of a second, and we're getting tackled for a loss. And it's that short yardage stuff. I'd love to see us get, a jumbo package up there. And
we did that. That's the thing. That first series, Skip, we did that. We went, and it was like an 80-yard drive. Everything you asked for, we did. And I'll take another look at that first drive, Skip.
Yeah, that they got it right there, but later in the game,
they used any wide receivers.
It was later in the game. I saw the same thing again. I'm thinking like,
it's tough because you got wideouts, Skip. One thing they talked about was, and Nick Saban talked about was, it's even tougher. I think Nick Saban made a comment, Jimmy, you might have a different view on it. I think he said even great defenses, he said a great offense will beat a great defense because of the way the game is played. The rules, the spread, what do you get to do? Everybody's spreading everybody out, and you got those wideouts, and we got to find out about them, of course, sooner or later, some of these other folks that are going to go ahead and get started. And then, for Clifford, if he is going to be, an athletic quarterback and run, you're not going to be able to do that in that tight package as much, unless we're dominating up front. But I think that, you're right, Skip. I say, use that package when people aren't expecting it. That's how. And my biggest thing is, regardless of what happens, I want to find out how good we are this weekend. To me, again, being able to get up front, to hold the lead, to get up 14-0. Now, how do you play? That'll be the question. And I'm looking forward to, and they know all about Shaka Tony, but I think it's going to be a good opportunity for him and some of the other defensive linemen, I think, that to keep us in the game. And then those linebackers to grow up from the, from last week. I think that's going to be important.
Yeah. Well said. Well, it's going to be a great game. Look forward to it. And it'll be just a strange time here in State College with the town being empty, the stadium being empty. I mean, it's like a ghost town, man. And even
I was going to say, what's downtown like, man?
It is like a ghost town. You see everybody running around, and everybody's like got their heads turning, bobbing, and they got this mask ordinance thing downtown, and I could tell you a story of that that's kind of funny, but offline. But
Let's stick to football before you get started.
I got you. I got
Yeah.
you. But it's a
Before you
ghost
get-
town here, man. I mean, except for last weekend, you saw. I think it probably made the international news. The students in these block parties took off, man. There's hundreds of them flocking, packing outside. You know?
That's so dangerous. I mean, that's where we're suspending people. I mean, and
Yeah, you were telling me you got guys,
It is-
athletes going out and doing stuff. You know.
listen, these parties, these large gatherings, even with 25, it's so dangerous. Oh my gosh! And then you see them, and then the students, when they see you in the hallway, they put the mask on when they see you. Then when you leave, you're like, oh man, come on, y'all, let's go. What we got going on? And then it's just working on this, because guess what? We're doing a lot of stuff, Skip. And I think society is by the seat of our pants, even through sports and some of the sports leagues. And you saw what happened in the major leagues. The one guy, I guess I don't quite understand all of what happened with this dude from the Dodgers. I guess he was supposed to be out of the game, but he just didn't come out. But then why does a COVID test come out during a game? During the game 7 of the World Series, you get a COVID. I didn't understand that. I was like, how does that work?
Man,
Yeah.
it's madness. The world's upside down, man. And you know, in the next week or two, it's everything's upside down, man. Look what we got going on. I mean, election here coming up Tuesday already, and it's just so much madness out there, man. Everything's upside down.
Don't forget football.
I got it. I know.
Okay.
Hey, but I gotta say, we're wrapping up, and I want to wish you guys a very a good, happy, and enjoyable Reformation weekend, because October 31st was the day that old Martin Luther nailed those 95 Theses to Wittenberg door. And where would we be if we didn't have that today? The printing press, literacy, all the wonderful things that came from that. So enjoy Reformation weekend, gentlemen.
Okay, brother.
Yeah. Jesus, Skip.
We leave it to you, Skip, for any fun. Yeah, I still say though, like I said, I'm looking forward to a good game. I think this, and Jimmy, I think you brought up some good points. That's the tough part. All the mystery is still in football. It used to be like not as much like you could dictate. That's why we have a chance on Saturday. We have a chance. It's just going to be.
Well, that's what they were saying before. I mean, obviously, I'm not getting off, starting the conversation back up, but that's what they were saying in terms of the NBA with the bubble.
Yeah.
The depth perception change in terms of like when you taking a shot, when you have a crowd behind you versus not having a crowd.
Yeah.
You know, and so you start seeing more 3-pointers and more things going. I mean, more shots going in, more accurate. I mean, like guys who haven't made a name for themselves were stepping up and making a name in the bubble because it was no different from practice. It's not looking up at a crowd. There's no distractions or anything like that. You don't have to adjust your shot and everything else to make sure you make that shot, because keep in mind, it's not like you have a backboard that's white. You have a glass backboard and everything else and so on, and then you have people behind it. So it's just different, you know? So
you don't hear the people yelling choke, you know?
yeah. So, you know, so
Yeah,
I mean,
this, you know?
yeah, so that's why I think you saw better quality ball in the bubble, and you could see why the players who actually are practice guys or guys who don't get, you know, the recognition and so on, but you can actually see the talent and be like, oh, okay, I see why he's in the NBA. Like he could play, you know, but it's just in terms of the crowd and the different stuff that I mean, think about Miami. I mean, Tyler Hero and those guys is rookies, and they was playing great ball. So.
Well, Jimmy, let me ask you this one. I mean, I can always speak from the college, but NFL and the like, because you've always played in front of huge crowds. You know, I remember as a freshman, I first went into the stadium, you run through and you're like, wow. For the first 5 minutes, you're kind of like in awe, but then you get in like that zone and you don't even really notice. And it's just all about the game. Is it like that? Was it like that in NFL?
Yeah, but I mean, I think it all. Obviously, the college stadiums are bigger than the NFL stadiums. But what people don't realize is still a transition. Obviously when I went out there, let's say you redshirt, you go out there, you're not playing. So I think that's the time. You're not just adjusting to football, you're redshirt, you're adjusting to the crowd and so on. Me, I redshirt, but I was a partial qualifier. So like a Prop 48. So I couldn't even go to the sideline. I couldn't run out the tunnel and everything else. My freshman year, I had to get a ticket and go sit in my seat.
Right.
And I remember sitting in the stand and be like, yeah, I'm nice. I'm gonna be out there killing next year. Watch, like, and no one, everybody's like, yeah, okay, fat boy, you ain't gonna be out there. Like, I'm like, look me up, I'm in the playbook. Like, I'm in the, look me up, so I'm in the program, I'm right here. Like, so I remember trying to convince people as a freshman, obviously a redshirt freshman then. But what happens is, when I was actually out there running out the tunnel, I didn't look at the crowd for my first 2 years. So my redshirt freshman year, my redshirt sophomore year, I never, like, when we were up and we were winning, then I'll stop and I'll look and I'll be looking at the crowd like, wow, this is crazy. But it's not just about, like what you said, it's more about, you can get into a zone where you don't hear, obviously you're locked in, you hear the calls and different stuff and so on. But as you start playing and you start hearing them screaming the "we are," you start hearing them, they get hyped and everything else and so on. Because it's not just having them go off sides, but you don't want to jump off sides either. So as a defensive player and everything else. So it's yeah, you're in the zone and you become used to the crowd noise, the different stuff. And obviously you guys know it's not the same. Like, think about it, Skip. You line up in practice, you go to kick the field goal, Joe could have 10 speakers behind you with the crowd noise on blast. You're still going to be laser focused, but it's not going to be the same with 10 seconds left, game on the line. We down by 2 points. We need a field goal to win. Like, it's not the same.
Yeah, you feel it. You feel it.
Yeah, you definitely feel it.
Yeah.
That timeout will kill you.
Try not to. What about you, Stefan?
What's that?
What about your experience?
Oh yeah, well, coming through that tunnel, and again, I guess when I looked at my first game, and it was in Giant Stadium, and I was, and again, like Jimmy said, I was redshirt. Now I don't think we had Prop 48 then, but I was good. But we redshirted the guys from New Jersey and New York, ended up going to the game. But coming out of there and understanding that was the first. That was the first game since the national championship. I don't think we quite knew how big it was until we actually came out there, and it was like, whoa, are you nervous? Or are you excited? Or are you scared? It was like a little bit of awe, that you're coming through that tunnel, and then these are the guys that, and I tell you what, it was a bad start for us. I mean, after we won the national championship, we go and we play in what was called for years the Kickoff Classic. And Nebraska thumps us 44-6. And the worst part about it is, Jimmy, we scored on the last play of the game and we were shut out.
Oh wow! Yeah, we played USC with Carson Palmer and them that year in the kickoff classic.
Yeah. So so going and then finally going to Beaver Stadium, it was the same way. Being able to dress and just the electricity of the crowd, especially even then it was less. You had 85,000, but that's where you used to have marching band and everything else play while the plays were going on. You notice that had changed. They stopped all that, and you started to get to know what songs were coming on when things happened, and that was it. So when my uniform went off, I watched what was really happening. I was like, whoa. But I mean, but it was tough. And then the last time was, of course, the coldest game was Notre Dame. I mean, our noses running, snot froze on our. I mean, I remember the whole mustache was frozen snot. I mean, it was I think 8 degrees. It was cold.
Man.
Yeah, and it was. My folks had left. My parents, I didn't know where they were after the game. They said they're at the apartment. I'm thinking, thank God.
Yeah.
We still had probably, I would say, almost 70,000 people, as cold as it was, and us winning 21-20, just so many different types of games, like Penn State and Notre Dame. I didn't know, it was great to be able to share it with my friends when they came, that they got to, they were like it, being able to share Penn State football is a blessing as well.
Look at Skip. I think you can still fit that jersey, Skip.
Yeah,
I couldn't even get into that thing if I tried, man.
All sleek. Yeah, I got one of those too, Jimmy. I don't know if I told you, if you saw in the 80s, we got the half jaws that said size 48 on it. I can't fit that bad boy no more.
Man.
I gotta put it in glass.
Look how long them sleeves are. God.
Wow, it was cold.
Yeah, that was Pitt. That was against Pitt. That's pictures from Pitt.
Yeah, that's when we had that fight. That's when Joe. We had to fight because Schaefer ends up scoring. The guy that ends up cheap shotting Schaefer is also for Moeller, Schaefer's teammate. No, that's what it was. He cheap shotted our guy. Schaefer came and jumped him. Our quarterback jumps the defensive end from Pitt. And there was a big fight, and Joe yells, "You guys are a disgrace to college football." And then all of a sudden, they asked him in the interview, Joe was smart, and they said, "What did you mean by what you said?" He said, "I meant everybody on the field was a disgrace to college football."
Yeah.
You didn't. You didn't mean that.
Yeah.
And I think that's what it is. And I think that's supposed to be about the coaches too. What we used to be able to take, and this is what's different. We have to. They have to add more stuff, I think, to college football staffs and things that have to do with human development and human potential, because they have to be able to. The young people have to be able to understand disappointment. I mean, all of us, like Jimmy, what you told me was people don't realize, they look at your whole resume. Nobody knows that you were in the stands trying to get on the field from the stand. That never happened. I can't ever tell you, but you see what else it did. This is where I think when we start talking about what the experience is like and what coach can you play for. If you play for a no-nonsense one, I mean, it's difficult, or a perceived one. These are the things that happen. And I think that's why I think if you look at college football, they really need to add more full-time, if you can, after the pandemic. I know it's expensive, but add somebody else, counseling, another different type of performance coach. I mean, we had Chet Furman. Chet tried to be a counselor and everything. He tried,
They had to do it all back then, and it was hard. They were, your coaches were part psychologist, part coach, and
Donnie Farrell.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Tired of you guys not going to class.
Yeah.
There was one time, man, when I heard he was coming to class in the what building was it? The Schwab Auditorium. Man, I was right down front too, because he was in the back. He had that long blaxploitation trench coat on. I'm like, nah, man. I turned right around and went. Long blaxploitation coat too, man. Yeah.
I got caught up a couple of times. They came looking in class and don't see me, and then they try to give me some punishment. I was like, I was in class. Like, I don't know what y'all talk about. We marked you absent. I was like, oh, you can check. All right, here's my work. Here's my notes. I was in class.
Yeah, that's right.
It all depends, because my freshman year, I was taking that meteorology 101. Old Lee Grentz, he was the professor.
Yeah, I had him.
Oh yeah, everybody had him. He's great, man. I love that class. And we were told, man, hey, you sit down in that front row, man. Let that let that professional know who you are. I did. Yeah. I did that too, and so we sat down. There's a couple of us guys. I forget who's my class. I know Massimo's in my class. He's a senior. And it was funny. Lee Gretzi looks down through. There's hundreds of people. He's going down through the whole list of students. And he goes, Massimo Manca, and he starts looking out. He's a big football fan, right? So we get out and see him after class. You know what, Massimo? It's because he's a senior. He knew how to study. I never missed a class, man, and I went up with a C. That guy, he never showed up except for tests, and he used my notes to study the night before. He winds up getting a B, and I'm like, come on,
Knew the game, but.
He knew how to play it, man. He did good. Yeah. Of course, Joe never said nothing to him. He's a senior, what's he going to say? He's been there, done it,
Yeah, but I hope that's what we get on Saturday, and hopefully to maybe wrap this up. It's just the seniors and the other people really have to come forward, and they have to use their savvy, whatever it is, you know. And I think we'll have chances, and we'll do the best we can to protect these linebackers. When I look, and it was like, man, listen, people can say what they want. Losing Micah Parsons, man, that was huge. Him opting out, very, very big. You know,
extremely, yeah.
You know what's going to be kind of unique is I'm sitting here in the family room where I'm looking, and I'm looking right out at Beaver Stadium, and I know come Saturday night I'll be sitting here, I'll be looking at the TV, and I'll be looking up, and I'll see the lights from the screen, you know, and I'll be like, man, this is so weird for not being there, you know, and just watching it. It's gonna be, I don't know how it's gonna be like, man. It's just gonna be weird, you know. It's just gonna be weird, and well, all we do is hope for the best here. It'd be great to see him pull one out because they need to have that happen. If they can pull out a win, it'll put them on the map where we need to be.
I would love to see that happen.
Yeah,
I would love to see that happen. You know what's gonna be weird? When they do something big, you watching it on TV and you don't hear the crowd.
I can hear it from my home. Yeah, that's right. I could be here and I could hear it from my home. Yeah. And that was the coolest thing too, growing up around here. I mean, as I'd be playing backyard ball as kids, you know, we'd be daydreaming, you know, we'd hear the roar of the crowd, we'd be playing backyard ball. And man, you know, it's a different animal. It's just, what's it going to be like next year? We just don't know what's going to happen.
No,
you know? We just don't know what's going to happen.
Man, hey, big dude, they have us, you know, out here in school that we don't go back right now until June 2021.
Wow.
Yeah, everything is online right now till June 2021. I'm like, June? Like, so.
They're not taking chances. And the tough part is if you try to, I guess the toughest part, Skip, what we saw is if you try to do it, the people who are the so-called experts, they can't help you. It's like on one end, we're not supposed to be contact tracers. We learn to be contact tracers. And then the people from the public health department and other places check with us on the phone. And they, oh, that's a good job. I'm glad you're doing it that way. I'm like, wait a minute, y'all supposed to be the one doing the daggone kind of tell me good job. You know? And here's the thing. I mean, because if you're there, your whole focus has to be that. That's why people are closing. That's why, because enrollment is big, you know, and you know, people have pulled out of school, taking leave of absences because, and some of the freshmen, because they couldn't imagine not being on campus, being in their college experience. And it's tough for students not to be in trouble, you know, because you get some people that do good, and they do like they're supposed to do, they quarantine. Then you get some other people who break the quarantine and go, hey man, you can't do that. What can I tell you?
It's madness, man. And you know, the thing that, you know, it's frustrating, I find frustrating is, you know, they're finding that there's just a small part of our society and certain types of people who are more susceptible to this than others, and we got to be careful for. And those are the ones we should really safeguard. But at the end of the day, this thing's going to, like any common cold, it's going to run its course through our society. And we're going to have people get it, people who don't, and our herd immunity is going to kick in somehow, because we can't go on living like this forever, man. I mean, we can't. It'll ruin our society if we go on and try to live like this. So we gotta at some point get over this. Hopefully, this vaccine thing will come out fast, like you're talking about, and we can move on from this because we got to get back to some type of normal, man. And my name's Skip Dreibelbis, and I approve the message.
You know, he had to get one in, big dude.
Hey man, it's that time of year. You know, Tuesday's the day.
Oh Lord, don't you even dare.
Well, no, I just hope everybody gets out and votes. You know, use that privilege you're given to try to make a difference and vote your conscience. That's it.
Sounds good to me. We voted our conscience, and unfortunately, is over 3 for Saturday.
No, we didn't get your code. But by the way, he did send me a message. He sends his regards. I hope his kid's okay. His kid needed a splint to be put on. He almost needed stitches. So there's some family things going on. So we trust that Lord will bring healing to his son there, and we hope we get him back on here next week, and we can keep on have a lot more better things to talk about.
Yeah, well, he's up against it, and then we'll check in with him through the week. But it's been my pleasure to be on here with you, gentlemen, on Facebook Live. it's the first time I've ever been on Facebook Live for anything like this. I think this show's going to a whole nother level. So I appreciate
I hope it's working right. I pushed all the right buttons. I hope, but it is recorded, so we'll
then
get it up
we'll
there.
be talking to ourselves.
No, it actually this is all being recorded, so we'll put this up there in the archives. We have hundreds of some videos up there already on YouTube already from the shows, so this will be another one to make the history books. So, hey, Jimmy, why don't you wrap us up, man? You want to sign us off for this week?
Man, you know, it's great to be back. It's good to have some Big Ten ball. It's great to see you guys. Prayers sent to Yaacov and his family, and I hope everything's all right there. And it's gonna be a tough one this week, but go Penn State. I think we're gonna go out there and fight. As long as we fight and continue to get better each week, I think we'll be fine.
I'll take that.
Amen. Hey, great seeing you guys. Look forward to getting again next week. And behalf of Yaacov and the big dude Stephen Davis, the Grizz Jimmy Kenny. My name's Skip Ramos. Look forward to see you next week on Lions Live. Catch us then next week. Lord bless, guys. Take care.
Back in a wonderful world of academia.
Enjoy.
I'll see you all
Yeah,
later.
be cool.
See you now.
All right, now. Be blessed.